Hello and welcome to Equipping Women. Tonight I am joined by my beautiful, delightful niece Jenny, Jennifer, whatever we call each other. We have insider names for each other that we call, and I won't divulge what mine is that I use with her, but obviously I've known her since birth, and she's just been an incredible gift and blessing in my life. She's married to Daniel Whittaker, and Daniel equally is an incredible blessing in my life. He serves in the media ministry, and to say he serves in it is really an understatement. I mean, he's just an incredible, gifted thinker in it, problem solver, creator, all that, and we're just grateful. For those of you who are watching this, these are the things that he's the one who helps all these kind of things happen, and so he's just a great blessing. Jennifer is part of our greeting team, hospitality team. I'm not sure what's the.
We call it the welcome team.
The welcome team.
Right.
Okay, so that makes sense. The welcome team, and Bible study leader here at Buck Run. Basically, you just whatever fills in. I know now you're like in the sanitizing ministry that you after the services.
I want to be a good utility player, so wherever I'm needed, hopefully I can work my way through and figure
awesome.
it out.
We did a former taping where I talked about the behind the scenes things that have to happen before the preaching ever takes place, and without those things, doors start closing or things don't happen that need to happen, and so those things are vital to ministry. And interesting enough, sanitizing the stuff, the rails, the bathrooms, all of the stuff that has to take place before that is a crucial and vital ministry. So thanks for doing that.
We have a healthy congregation.
We do, yeah. So
it's working.
It's why we're able to do 3 services now. All right, so tonight, though, what we're going to talk about is we're going to call it holding the door open. And here's why I'm calling it that. When my boys were young, when our sons were young, I wanted to teach them to prefer others over themselves. And so you would do certain acts that would demonstrate that you value somebody else. And one of those things was if you saw someone either walking toward a door or you were walking toward a door and someone was following closely behind, you would open up the door and hold it open for them to walk through first, therefore demonstrating you prefer somebody over them. And so what we're going to talk about tonight is somewhat that you're trying to show people who come to Buck Run, who come to find a church home to plug themselves in, that you prefer them over yourself, and that we're trying to figure out a way to hold that door open. And so basically what we want to talk about tonight is how we can take on this opportunity and responsibility that the Lord has given us to embrace those that the Lord sends to us who come seeking for a church. So let's just begin with some very basic stuff. What do you think is the response of a Christian who's a member here at this church, or basically at any church for that matter, but we're talking specifically to Buck Runners, what is our response of a Christian toward those who come looking if they want to be part of this fellowship?
I think you have to welcome people as Christ welcomed us, and that means you welcome boldly. And that doesn't mean that you're just like, oh, there's someone over there, they don't really look familiar. I think it's the pandemic makes it harder because it's even hard to tell who people are with a mask on. But that requires you have to figure out workarounds. I can't tell you how many people at the door during the pandemic I've said, as part of the welcome team, I don't know your name. Tell me your name. And I've had probably, I would say, 10 people say, this is my second time here.
Isn't it crazy that people are...
So then I'm like, okay, that's why I didn't recognize them. And then we would have a conversation. So we can't use a pandemic as an excuse. We have to use it as kind of a catalyst to really up our game and figure out how do we welcome people in as Christ welcomed us.
So all these principles I think they're going to apply whether you have a pandemic or whether you're
Agreed.
in a normal situation, no matter what it is. So now you'll have different strategies, obviously,
Right.
with it. And, right now I think we're freed up more to ask people, help me with your name, because
Yes.
we're masked up.
Right.
And it's this weird kind of thing going on. So let's just sort of wade through some of the things that you think that as Christians, as members of this church here, that we might be missing, or either blunders, I think, that we might even unknowingly make, and either forfeiting our responsibility or opportunity in this responsibility to welcome people, to hold that door open for it. You can
Right.
think of anything we might be missing?
I can. I also did not grow up at Buck Run. And so I'm one of those people that was a visitor.
Right.
I was one of those people that just showed up one time, and it was really hard because I grew up somewhere where everyone knew my entire family. So now all of a sudden I'm going in and there aren't really familiar faces. And that made it really challenging. And also, it made me not want to come. So I understand the way people feel when they open that door to Buck Run to go, I'm walking in and I don't know anyone and I don't know what that feels like. The great thing is when we got this sanctuary, it kind of leveled a lot of playing fields for everyone.
Did.
Because no one really knew where anything was.
Right. Yeah. And we're all sort of newly experiencing
Right.
a
And
place.
so I
Yeah.
think it kind of leveled the playing field in a lot of ways. But I think some of the blunders that we do is we make assumptions with people. So what we do is when someone comes in, we in our mind decide this is where I think this person fits. And then we sort of assume that they'll either find their way there or we sort of pigeonhole them into that area, and then that's it, and then we just go back to wherever we were. We don't circle back around and go, where'd that person go? Or maybe that wasn't the right place for them. So I think
That's interesting you said that, and that it triggered a memory when Herschel was being a I forget, he was filling in for a pastorate, and we had just moved to Louisville, and so the boys and I were plugged into a church, and we were going to a church. We had just started going there, and so I'm coming alone with two sons, teenage sons, and they pigeonholed me as
you're a single mom.
as a single mom.
Right.
And so I got invited to single mom events and nothing else. It was really peculiar.
And what's funny is I wasn't blessed with children. Daniel and I do not have them. And because we don't have children, we get the opposite experience. That
Right.
people sort of make that assumption that it's like, oh, you don't have kids, you must not like them.
Yeah, right. Which you're amazing.
So,
boys. Yeah.
it's like, but you
Right.
you make those
Yeah.
assumptions, and we can't do that. We've got to kind of let people figure out where is it that they want to be, because you don't know someone's story.
Yeah.
When you're circling back around, the other thing that you need to do is you need to not assume that someone else is doing the welcoming and doing the discipling. So when someone comes in, you can go, oh, I saw them talk to so-and-so. That person has them. We're fine. And that's it. So you've really got to put that effort in and make sure that you're doing some follow-up. Because would you want to walk in a room and only know one person?
Right.
And then if that one person isn't there, all of a sudden you don't know anyone.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And honestly, just one person in your life is not nearly enough for the
No.
Christian walk.
No.
I mean, the whole process takes a lot of ages and stages and flavors of people to sort of help you maneuver the waters of
I
Christian
think
life.
if you just even look at it from the lens of how hard it is to make friends as adults.
It is.
It
Right.
takes a lot of effort to
Right.
really make friends. Kids are just like, you're wearing green. I like green.
Yeah,
Let's be friends.
Right.
You know, adults are guarded. They're not that way. They don't want you to figure out their stuff. They're just really reserved. So I think what you have to do is you have to say, you know, I'm here. I
Right.
want to be, you know, available to you, but not overbearing.
Right. You sort of just keep reintroducing
And then you
yourself to
sort
them.
of like connect the dots with other people and sort of let them figure out where that is. You know, they might not be your friend, but they might end up being 3 other people's friends that you introduce them to.
Right.
So if you apply that, if you layer that on to coming to church, that's sort of what it feels like. You're walking in and you're like, I have no friends here. I am friendless.
Right.
And no
Right.
one likes that feeling.
Right.
So don't do that to someone. Make sure that they know that they have someone here that's happy to see them.
Right. Yeah, doing things, simple things like working hard to remember their names.
Right.
You know, whatever method you need to
Oh,
employ.
I feel insane sometimes because when someone introduces themselves, I'm just like Matthew, 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 Matthew,
Right.
Matthew, Matthew in my head over and over and over again, just to try to get that in my head so that I'll remember the next time. And it's also funny because there's some people that have been new visitors to Buck Run within the last month or two. When they show up, they're like, hello, Jennifer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Right.
they remembered me.
Yeah.
Like they're the visitor. This is crazy.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a shame on some level, isn't it? And
Yes.
it make you go, oh, I got to do better
Right.
than that. Yeah. I have to write down their name, and then this is telling on myself, but I'll put something that stood out about them to me. You know, it can be a feature, it can be a place they named,
Right.
something, because I want to connect those dots, and then I just keep that little notebook and revisit those, and those actually help me a little
I
bit.
think the last thing, obviously there's so many, we just
Right.
don't even have enough time,
Right.
is not welcoming in a visitor with expectation. I think what we do is we sort of welcome someone in and just basically assume they're window shopping. And you just are more hands off and you kind of let them find their path
Right.
and do whatever instead of saying, oh, we have a Serve Frankfurt coming up. I'd love for you to come. This was a few years back. It was the first marriage retreat we had right after we moved in here. And there was a family that had just come to Buck Run and they have a ton of kids. And I had said, oh, by the way, today's the last day to sign up for the marriage retreat. And she said, my husband would never come to something like that. And I said, mine doesn't either, but he's my hostage.
Yeah.
And so we started talking. They came.
Yeah.
It was the last Sunday for them to sign up.
Yeah.
They were a visitor. I'm sure I sounded insane to them. And they showed up. And they're members now. And they serve.
Right. Here's the thing that I think we do. We say no for somebody.
Exactly.
And you can't, you know, I don't want anybody saying no for me. You know, and yet we easily do that. We assume, we make that assumption that, well, they probably won't want to go. They don't know people. Well, how are they going to how better to get to know somebody than not just, you know, like you get to know the Lord, you get to know Herschel, you get to know the ministry team when you're sitting in congregation, but you really, outside of this, is where you get to know people.
Right.
And you get in community with people. So we don't want to make any of those assumptions. Another assumption that you and I are very familiar with is people would assume that they have a personal relationship with the Lord, because why else would they come to church? You know,
Right.
and so you know, you and I are alike in the sense that there was a time where we were part of a church without having a relationship with the Lord.
Oh, I had a relationship with everyone in church.
Yeah,
There
right.
was just God
One
that I
you
didn't
did.
have a
That's good
relationship
word.
with.
Yeah, right.
And so I think everyone that grew up in the church that we grew up in, they knew all of our family.
Right.
They knew who we belonged to.
Yes.
And they assumed we belong to him.
Right.
Because we were there.
Because we showed up. We're
Right.
there. Yeah.
And we were there often.
Yes, right. Well, so you assume people coming in that there are some well, let's go back. Let's identify the kinds of people who come
Right.
to church, because I think that's a helpful thing for us to put our minds.
Well, you're going to have like basically three people. You're going to have people that are unchurched, meaning they've just never been to church.
Don't know what to expect. Don't know what to do when they come in.
No.
And those people. Let's address those people. How do we help those people first?
Well, we all come in and we know it's going to be prayer, praise, preach, praise, prayer, parking lot.
Right.
We all know that.
Exactly.
We just know exactly how many times we're going to stand up, how many times we're going to sit down, where the bathroom is. We just know all of these things. Someone that's never been to church, they are waiting for flags to come out and dancing.
Yeah, they have no idea what to expect.
And possibly snakes, possibly birthday
it
cake.
Is Kentucky,
Right.
So, right.
They have no idea. The only thing that they know about church is something that someone may have told them. If they're here, it might be you and they're your visitor, but they really have no idea what to expect. So could you imagine going into a room and you just don't know anything to expect?
No, like especially if you get somebody who has been brought up in another religion.
Right.
And they're somebody from a Baptist church has invited them to come.
Right.
And they're used to being a Muslim, and that all that unfolds and what that looks like. And so them coming here, like we have a really precious, we've sort of lost our connection with them during this, and or we're working now trying to figure out how to get that back. But you could just sense they wanted community, and so that's why they became part of the community of Buckra, but they were very unfamiliar with all this other stuff. And so after it was over with, they were like, wow,
well, and I want to say it's uncomfortable to me because I'm an introvert, forced extrovert. And that's exhausting.
It is. Yeah.
Because I'm someone that wants to blend into the wallpaper and have no one notice me ever. That is my ideal situation. And so I know that isn't right. So we can't use an excuse of, well, that's just not how I am.
Yeah, it's not my personality type.
It's not, well, as Herschel says, well, your personality is the problem.
It's your problem.
Right.
It's true.
So,
it is true.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think that, we can't sit in that situation where it's like, oh, this feels so uncomfortable to me. It feels uncomfortable to somebody else, but you know what's going on.
That's exactly right.
They don't.
That's right.
So you have the opportunity to say, this isn't what I'd normally do, but I'm going to invite them out to eat.
You're opening the door.
Yes.
You're saying, I prefer you over my feelings of awkwardness or whatever. So, okay, so we have unchurched.
You have also the group of people that are going to be kind of de-churched. And that's going to be sort of like that group that once went to church and then they aren't going. They're somewhere.
Yes, something happened in their life or what didn't hold the appeal for them.
Whatever.
But they've come back.
Right.
They're searching again. Something, typically a trigger of something happens in their life where they're going, there's a hole. There's something I'm missing. And maybe it's church.
And I fell into that group.
Me too.
And this is going to get real personal, but we're family. But the deciding factor was when my Mimi passed away. And that Sunday, that weekend, I looked at Daniel and I said, I have to go to church.
Now, and you're not a believer at this time. You had not.
I thought I was.
That's right. But
I thought I was.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I thought, I just really was backslidden.
Yeah.
Like West Coast so far backslidden. like
Right.
real far away.
Yeah, because we did all the church things.
So
So we should have qualified,
I
right?
was delusional
Yeah.
and dechurched.
Yeah, right.
So, I fell into that group. So it's normally something that's that catalyst that says, I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
I
So-
need something.
Oh man, so this group is so open because usually something has, aside from the Lord drawing them in,
Right.
a situation, a circumstance has peaked in their life, or bottomed out.
Enough for them to get past the uncomfortableness.
So, like, because they know what they're
because
going to have to
it
do.
is
Yeah.
so hard.
Isn't it, though?
It just as it is a habit to come to church, it is a habit to not come to church. And I don't say habit in a bad way.
No, right.
I just say you make yourself get up. You make yourself do all of these things, or you give yourself the excuse. And then that becomes your habit. So the de-churched is that other group. And then the non-churched is that final group where you go, they're not currently connected. That could be somebody that's church shopping.
Okay, right.
I mean, that sounds vulgar to phrase it that way,
No, but
people do.
Yeah.
So, that could be someone that said, oh, I moved, we're new to the area, we're shopping around, we're trying to find the right church for us. We just don't know where we fit
Right.
yet.
Right.
So that person's looking and they're really open. You don't know what they're looking for. So that requires a relationship to kind of figure out, let me tell you about Buck Run.
Right.
This
Why-
is what, right,
Here's what flavor we are.
Right.
And why it may or may not fit you.
right,
kind of
exactly.
thing.
But it requires action. You have to do something to help that person.
Right. What's really interesting about that is it's not like you're trying to sell a church to people. It's you're really, the whole motive behind this, the whole reason why we're even talking about this is because people distance from the Lord for any reason, whether because they don't know Him, they're church shopping, and so they're uprooted from the fellowship of people they've already had, or people like us who went to church and fell out of church and then just said, man, we have a big void in our life.
Right. I read this book by Brett McCracken. It's called Uncomfortable. Have you read that one?
I have, and it's good.
It's really good because
Yeah,
it
it's
sort
helpful.
of gets in your face and says, it isn't about you.
Right.
And so what you have to do is focus and say, is the word being delivered?
Right. Yeah.
Well, we're so lucky.
Aren't we, though? I mean, I don't care
We're-
what Sunday school class from kids up. You're
I
getting
should
it.
not be so excited when Dr. York is gone.
Yeah.
But then I know I get to hear Chris.
Right. Exactly.
And-
Like I'm not missing Chris preaching. You know?
No,
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited
Yeah.
because it's Chris. I was so excited when Kevin Jones would preach because
Yes.
you can't help but be like, no wonder D'Amica's the way she is because you feel
Make
that.
it plain,
You-
Jenny.
Yes.
Make it plain.
And so,
Yeah.
we are so fortunate to be here.
Yeah.
So you're like, check. Now what's your excuse? Oh, they didn't
Right.
play the music I liked.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
That's not what it,
Right.
ultimately
But don't
about.
you see even an opportunity to sort of help people even get beyond those things that are non-essential things that aren't going to do?
But it requires a person. It
You're
requires
right.
relationship.
You're right.
It requires you opening that door
Right.
to kind of help someone kind of weed through those things
Right.
and go, not important, not important, important.
Right. Well, and establishing relationships just helps that in so many ways. Put what's valuable, raising what's valuable, and diminishing what's not. And
Right.
you sort of get that balance with it. All right, so we also get this challenge because in a church our size, but in any church for that matter, especially in a culture now where people are, we can move around pretty quickly, move from city to city, country to country. So now we have several people who are coming that are not like us. So what's the challenge when? For us, how is it we can open that door, or do you see that challenge? Is it really a legit challenge when we go, well, they're not like me?
I think we make it more of a challenge than we need to be. Yeah, they're not like you.
Right.
Isn't that great?
Isn't it though? Yeah.
I would never want, well, I would never want anyone to, this is a lot, but I think it's so great that we're all different. That doesn't mean they're wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're right.
Right.
It just means that they're just different. You also have no idea where someone has come from. You don't know their story. You don't know the things that led them into the door. And so what you have to do is say, I'm just happy you're here.
Right. Right.
I'm happy you're here.
Right.
And you're meeting people where they are. And that's important to meet people where they are, because some people are going to be more at the milk stage. People are going to be more at the meat stage. I mean, there have been some people that have come in as visitors and they were ready. Like they were ready for, like they were ready with their fork and knife. They were like,
Right.
I'm here for the meat.
Yeah. Right. I've seen them.
Right.
Yeah. Which
And
is, they're awesome gifts. They're
Right.
awesome gifts to the church.
And you're like,
yeah.
that
Right.
is incredible. So we just can't make those. Again, it goes back to assumptions. You know,
Right.
just because someone might look different, speak different, whatever it is, that doesn't mean it's wrong.
Right.
It just means that their path is different. But their path led them here. God led them here.
Right. So we're working hard to make sure that we're just not looking for people like us.
No.
You know, man, don't you just love the flavor that Buck Run offers?
Yes.
You know, like there are, you know, it's like I'm not a country music fan, but I love people who love country music.
Right.
And I like that they introduce that kind of thing to
Right.
my world, because I would not be exposed to some of that kind of
Right.
thing otherwise. And it's just that even on spiritual levels, things that I just would not even possibly be able to conceive of. So, all right, we got to roll along. We got 1,000 things we want to say. But, okay, so how is it we can train our eyes and hearts to be looking for these the Lord is going to entrust to us?
Well, I think that first what we have to do is realize the ground at the cross is level. So even though we all come with our differences, our baggage, whatever it is that we're bringing, it's level, right? We're all going to the same place. And so what we have to do is say, if we're starting there, then every person is starting there. It's a level playing field.
Right.
And so you have to train your eyes and go, and your heart, your eyes, your ears, you have to be on guard, because guess what? Satan is.
Right. He's a roaring
He's
lion,
looking
seeking
to
whom
distract you.
Yes, right.
When that person is around you saying, oh, I'm having trouble in my marriage.
Yeah.
He's looking for that phone to ding and distract you from that.
Right.
He is waiting. He is aware. We can be distracted. So what we have to do is realize we're like the mobile church. So we are the church in our workplace. We're the church in the grocery, at school, wherever that might be. We're that representation. And for some people, we're the only representation. It seemed like growing up, we had such a luxury because most people went to church.
Right.
Most people had Bibles in their homes. You know, it was like pretty standard. That is not the case anymore. It is shocking to me how many people say, I don't have a Bible.
Right. It's mind-boggling because we have so many,
Right.
you know.
Like,
Yeah.
how many do you think you have in your house?
Oh, I couldn't even begin to
Right.
guess. Right.
Right.
The fact that I don't know is
Exactly.
amazing.
More than 2.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah.
I just think you have to really set your eyes on not being distracted. And that is hard because Satan's at work. The harder thing is tuning your heart, because then you have to park your emotions. And when your heart is harder because people are going to hurt your feelings. Failure is totally an option, and it's going to happen.
It is going to occur. It is going to occur.
We have
right.
fooled ourselves into believing that things have to be easy to be good. We have fooled ourselves into thinking that if it's hard,
It's
isn't
not
for
meant
us.
to be.
It's not
Yeah.
meant to be. This is too hard.
Yeah.
instead of, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm not going to pray for deliverance out of this. I'm going to pray for strength in this. Right. And so when you're talking to that person at work that's having trouble in their marriage, and this person is really mean to you, just really mean all the time, does underhanded things,
Right.
Everything in their life is falling apart. Well, what that's saying to me is they need Jesus. They don't need my hurt feelings right now.
Right.
And so what I have to do is park those emotions to go, I'm going to step into their life. I'm not going to HR.
Right.
I'm going to him, and I'm just going to say, give me some strength to come in and speak into their lives. And whatever way it is. So the heart can be trickier for women. Guys can kind of compartmentalize,
Right.
and it can be somewhat easier, but we have it easier because we're more relational.
Right.
So, it's really cool how God balances that out for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another book, I can't remember who the author is, but it's called Out of Their Faces and Into Their Shoes. And that basically the title tells you enough to know exactly where it is. And we all are broken. And that you are right when we just say, you just got to understand, we're all broken. And that gives within us the eyes and heart of, we've got to just stretch that grace parameter and let people do some things that are a little challenging and troubling to us, maybe initially, knowing that, first of all, what they may be doing or saying sometimes just might be different and not wrong, but even wrong. It's like you're not born knowing the right things to do. And sanctification doesn't, when you're saved, it doesn't mean you instantly become
That would be the best.
Would that not
would
be amazing?
The best if you all of a sudden lost all of those natural tendencies that you had before you were saved.
Yeah. But oh my goodness, every single thing that was there before you were saved, after you accept Christ as your Savior, is still there.
I think it's even more so.
Well, probably so.
Because Satan is going,
he's giving you opportunity.
Like, he knew that pride had you before.
Yeah.
So now he's going to really try to distract you from God because he wants your attention back. And he's going to use the things that he knows works for you.
Right.
But what works for you might be off my radar.
Absolutely. But we just have to, I think when people are coming into our church, when we're holding the door open for them, whether we've known them for a while or they're brand new to us, whatever, that there has to be a large measure of grace and an adaptability in that relationship. It's like, you came here, so you need to be like us, kind of thing.
Right.
That's an arrogance, really. And I'm grateful that the Lord has stretched me in different facets here at Buck Run, from everything from music to the style, let's say the style of Sunday school class that I didn't grow up with and I'm not familiar with and was outside of my comfort zone. And when I first heard that, it was like, what? You're taking me away from my people group and you're putting me with people that aren't my people group.
Right.
Now, how is that and the fact that the Lord just stretched me in that, and it turned out to be this wonderful grace. And now I'm hearing from multiple voices with multiple insights of different ages and stages and flavors that are actually able to teach me. But we can't be lazy, is what I'm hearing you say. We can't be narrow focused or narrow hearted. And it's going to take work loving people. It's not going to come fluidly and easily, and there has to be a persistence in that. But let's talk about how we can walk alongside them. Then we're going to take just a few moments and quickly just say, do you know something that you do or that's been helpful for you, where somebody's just walked alongside you that was a very strategic move on their part or your part?
For me, I think just walking alongside me, it was pushing me to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. That's the same for me, I think, when somebody came alongside me.
Right. Quite frankly, all the other stuff, you could kind of be like, oh, we have other plans. Oh, you could.
Right.
There are ways to avoid certain things, and you can do it in such a polite way. But when someone really started pushing me to not even slightly get out of my comfort zone, but to be just as uncomfortable as I could possibly be, so much so that none of it was in my own power, in my own strength, beyond anything that I would ever choose to do, that was something that worked for me. That might not work for someone else.
Right.
So, what we have to do, again, you're going back to the relationship. You're noticing someone. There was one class that I taught, and this person came up afterwards and shared some things. And I immediately went behind the scenes and contacted 6 people that I thought kind of ticked the boxes of everything this person said, and was like, would you be able to reach out to this person? And it ended up turning into something far more beautiful than what I ever could have imagined. But it required me paying attention, not being distracted, not forgetting, because then I still had to come in here and listen to church and drive home and fix lunch and do all that stuff. Like, it required intentionality in it. And just saying, this is what this person is asking for, even though they're not asking. And that's important. Even being on the welcome team, prior to COVID, there would be people that would come in and would stand like this and just stare at the wall of Sunday school classes. Like,
I mean, absolutely.
If you were a visitor, like, no stone unturned, what's that mean? Like, well, I see a woman's name, so I guess I'll go to that. But I don't know what to expect. So then put yourself, so you're a visitor. You go, okay, that's a woman, so I think that's a women's class. Let me go in there. Where is it? So then you get in that class, you sit down. Now, let's say you're part of that group that hasn't really been to church before. And you sit down and someone is in the middle of this, whatever it is, a study on Mark. Well, that's not a good example because it's so complex, but it still is like attainable, but we're going to go with it.
Okay.
So, it's like, there's really heavy stuff in Mark. So someone comes in and they sit down and they don't even have a Bible. And you go, oh, here, you can use mine. And you hand them, what's Mark? Where's Mark? Where do I even go? I mean, there have been times where, I'm not kidding, like I get like sweat stains in my armpits. Because someone will say, turn to Titus. And I'm like, why can't I find Titus? Like, those pages are sticking to, it's back here.
Titus is tiny.
It's back here. And so then I think, I know where it is. Think about that person that has no idea where something is. And frankly, you can kind of normally notice those things. So in those sweet moments, you're just like, oh my gosh, I can never find Titus. It's like one of those where you have to like go to Revelations, which is in the very back, and then you just kind of turn left. And you sort of like direct people, but you do it like in the sweetest way. So, that isn't even being in a relationship with someone yet. That's just like someone's pretty much just walked in the door, but you're making them feel a little bit more comfortable. And then you go, how do you think that person's going to feel that someone was like, did it, but respected them, noticed them. And
I when that kind of thing happens and I'm noticing somebody just fumbling around and they can't find it, or they just don't even bother to go there, I cheat and I go to the front of my Bible and it tells you what page it's on. That's a good way to cheat. And you just say it lightheartedly, and it endears that person to you. And
now, then the next step of that is I've had multiple people say, I just, I've tried to read my Bible
Right.
and I just don't get it.
Yeah.
So my first question is what?
What translation?
And we live in Kentucky, so they're
Oh.
going to say King James Version.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because
right.
that's what, like, if
A
you
lot
are
of-
someone that didn't grow up in church, your grandma's going to, like, give you a King James Version.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
There's not going to be anything else. And so this is kind of where you get into people's lives and you start saying, am I going to buy them a Bible? Am I going to
Right.
tell them which version to go to? Whatever it is to make it more accessible to them. And, I think that those tiny little things are incredibly important because if you're starting out at church in a King James version, like my husband Daniel, who has a degree in classics, like he can translate Old English.
Right.
That looks like wingding font to me.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I don't know what that is.
Right.
And so, to be able to go, like the NIV is really great. A lot of people say, oh, it's sort of like a middle school, high school level, but it's so great for understanding.
Yeah.
But I partner it with others. So I kind of toggle back and forth. So I think that that's even in Sunday school class, you can kind of notice the
Right.
people that are around you or around you in the service or sermon. And again, I think we have to take it with a grain of salt. COVID might be a bit of a unique situation, but
Right.
overall, we still have opportunity.
Right. The church still needs to be the church.
You still have eyes to see.
That's right. And ears to hear.
Right.
And one thing that I'm hearing you say over and over again is basically you just have to be a really good listener.
You do.
And you have to really pay attention. And it can't just fall to the people at Buck Run who are on the welcome team or who are the ministry wives or the ministry people. That everybody at Buck Run has to see themselves as a vital part with a responsibility and an opportunity to do something in the life of another person who is coming in, whether unchurched, de-churched, non-church, doesn't matter. That, one move toward them with some persistence and some listening following up with that has incredible fruit.
It does.
I mean, I am here, humanly speaking, because there was an elderly woman who was persistent with me. And she just kept inviting me to stuff. And I kept turning down till finally I came.
Now, and I do want to like hit this point, and it's not an indictment. I love my church and I love my church family. I think it's so great here, and we are a wacky, quirky.
Yeah, I like it. We're eclectic.
We are, and it's
I
just
love
so
that.
great because there's so many different personalities and interest. There really is a place for everyone.
There really is.
And so
True.
that's very nice. But I remember when we were in the old location, someone said to me once we moved here, oh, don't you remember when we were at the old location? You and Daniel would walk in and just walk upstairs to the balcony and sit down and not say a word to anyone. And he said, you all did that for years. And I said, and for years, no one spoke to us.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, there's two parts to that.
There is.
We could have spoken to someone. I get that. But someone could have said, hey,
Stopped you on the way. Yeah.
what's up with those backpacks?
Yeah.
Like
Right. That's right.
There could have been
Right.
so many times that someone said something to us.
Yeah.
And it was so hard
Yeah.
to break in.
Yeah.
Not having kids, there's not a natural place for someone
Right, you're
that's
right.
our age that doesn't have children. Because what happens is everyone that has children, they're all bonded.
Right.
And if your kids are just now in college, that means that you all have been friends for a decade or
Right.
more.
Right.
Some people 2 decades.
Right.
If you have young children, you're connected to the other people in nursery or 3-year-olds or whatever it is. If you don't have kids, your options are the people that are my parents' age
Right. Yeah.
or people that are substantially younger and you're just like, I am really tired. It is past my bedtime.
Right. Right.
So there is a responsibility, but I'm saying as someone that's a visitor, you can't put that responsibility on them to
Right.
be the first one that says something.
Right.
Don't make them make the first move.
Right.
Because it might be years.
Right. Exactly. And we don't know that we've got years.
No.
And there's always a critical moment when somebody's going to be making those decisions, and you don't know when that moment is.
Right.
And so if we just said anything, I think tonight what we would probably say is pay attention, be a good listener, follow up, be persistent. Don't let it be somebody else's responsibility. And if you're a member of Buck Run, it's your responsibility to welcome somebody, to hold the door open and just say, I prefer you. Jennifer, there's 1,000 more questions I want to ask.
There really are. I know we have like 8 more pages.
I know, right? Okay, but that's all you all can handle. So we love you guys. We're thankful for you. Hold the door open, folks.
Yeah.
Let's do this ministry well, even in the midst of a challenging and unique time like a pandemic. Thanks, Jenny.
My
Love you.
pleasure. Love
All right.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.